What if the biggest productivity hack in the world wasn't waking up at 5 a.m., wasn't drinking coffee, and wasn't working harder, but simply sleeping more? Because the truth is, the difference between being focused, creative, and productive, or tired, distracted, and unmotivated, often comes down to one thing: sleep. Most people treat sleep like it's optional. We sacrifice it to work more, study more, scroll more, or watch one more episode. But here's the problem. Sleep isn't wasted time. It's actually a biological process that makes productivity possible in the first place. In fact, many scientists believe sleep is the most powerful performance enhancer humans have. If you improve your sleep, you improve focus, memory, energy, decision-making, creativity, mood, discipline. In other words, you improve almost everything that determines success. So in this video, we're going to break down why sleep is the #1 productivity tool, what happens when you don't get enough of it, and how better sleep can completely transform your performance. Let's start with something most people underestimate. Your brain is extremely expensive to run. Even though it's only about 2% of your body weight, it uses around 20% of your total energy. And just like any powerful machine, it needs maintenance. Sleep is when your brain performs that maintenance. While you sleep, your brain clears toxins, repairs neural connections, strengthens important memories, removes unnecessary information. Think of it like cleaning your computer's hard drive overnight. Without that reset, your brain starts slowing down, which explains something you've probably experienced before. You wake up after a bad night of sleep, and suddenly everything feels harder. Simple tasks take longer. You forget things. You lose focus easily. That's because your brain never got the chance to reboot properly. Productivity is really just focused attention applied to meaningful work. And sleep is one of the biggest factors controlling your ability to focus. When you're well rested, your brain's prefrontal cortex works properly. This part of the brain is responsible for concentration, planning, decision-making, self-control. But when you're sleep deprived, this system starts to shut down. Studies show that even one night of poor sleep can reduce your cognitive performance significantly. Your reaction time slows, your attention drops, your brain becomes easily distracted, which means instead of working efficiently, you spend hours doing what should take minutes. This is why someone who slept 7 to 8 hours can accomplish more in 3 hours than someone exhausted can in 8 hours. If you want to learn faster, sleep is essential. When you learn something new during the day, your brain stores it temporarily. But during sleep, your brain decides what information is important enough to keep. And then it transfers that information into long-term memory. This process is called memory consolidation. Without sleep, the brain simply can't lock in what you learned, which means staying up all night studying is often one of the least effective ways to learn. In fact, research shows that people who sleep after learning something new remember significantly more than those who stay awake. So if you want to learn skills faster, absorb knowledge better, improve your thinking, sleep isn't optional. It's essential. Sleep doesn't just help you remember information. It also helps your brain connect ideas in new ways. During sleep, especially REM sleep, your brain begins making unusual connections between different pieces of information. This is why people often wake up with new ideas, solutions to problems, sudden clarity. Some of the greatest discoveries in history actually came from sleep. For example, the structure of DNA was partially inspired by a dream. And many artists, writers, and scientists report solving complex problems after sleeping on them, because sleep allows the brain to do something incredibly powerful. It lets your subconscious mind keep working while you rest. But productivity isn't just about intelligence. It's also about energy. And this is where sleep becomes even more powerful. When you're sleep deprived, your body releases more cortisol, the stress hormone. At the same time, it reduces the chemicals responsible for motivation, happiness, drive, which explains why after poor sleep you feel unmotivated, sluggish, mentally drained. Even simple tasks feel overwhelming. But after good sleep, everything feels easier. You have more energy, more drive, and more mental clarity, which makes productive behavior much more natural. One of the most surprising effects of sleep deprivation is how it impacts self-control. Your brain has two systems constantly competing: the rational system, which plans for the future, and the impulsive system, which seeks immediate pleasure. Sleep strengthens the rational system. But when you're tired, the impulsive system takes control, which means you're more likely to procrastinate, eat junk food, or scroll social media, and avoid difficult work. In other words, lack of sleep makes discipline significantly harder. This is why people often think they lack willpower, when in reality they're just exhausted. Sleep doesn't just affect your brain, it affects your entire body. Consistent good sleep improves immune function, metabolism, hormone balance, recovery from exercise, and long-term poor sleep has been linked to increased risk of heart disease, obesity, diabetes, depression, which means protecting your sleep isn't just about productivity, it's about protecting your long-term health and performance. Here's the paradox most people get wrong. They think sacrificing sleep will make them more productive. But the opposite is usually true. Sleeping less often means slower thinking, worse decisions, lower energy, less discipline, more mistakes, which ultimately leads to less progress. Meanwhile, someone who protects their sleep gains a huge advantage, because they consistently show up with clarity, focus, creativity, energy, and over months and years, that advantage compounds. In a world obsessed with productivity hacks, sleep might be the most underrated one of all. Because while others are trying to squeeze more hours out of the day, the smartest performers focus on improving the quality of the hours they already have, and sleep is what makes that possible. Better focus, better learning, better creativity, better energy, better discipline, all from something as simple as getting the sleep your brain was designed for. So if you want to become more productive, don't just ask, how can I work harder? Start asking, how can I sleep better? Because the truth is sometimes the most powerful way to move forward is simply to rest.